Welcome back, Water Trio listeners. I'm here with Cassandra and Kelly, and we're excited to bring you the astrology of the week starting January the 27th, 2020. So how are you both? How's things hanging?
Well, I know we're pre-recording this, but when we get to the start of this week, I will have just wrapped basically 3 weeks of teaching and touring. So I'm excited for a couple of days off, which is what I get at the start of this week. And when we get into the astrology, that'll make really good sense. But how are you both doing?
Yeah, well, by the start of this week, I will be shuttling my little ones back into school and daycare. So I will be happy to have a bit of a break as well, a different break.
A different kind of break, but break nonetheless.
It's been lovely being with them and kind of having that, being in that dreamland. And we'll talk more about that in a minute. But, it'd be good to kind of get my teeth back into things and get revving for 2020. Yeah, what about you, Cass? How are you going?
Yeah, well, this week we'll see my little man's first day at big school. So, yeah, Mum will be having a few Neptune moments. I don't know whether it'll be tears or wine or both, but we'll see what happens. Yeah, so definitely new beginnings for me, yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Lots of emotion.
Let's not talk about it.
Yeah, all different kinds. Yeah.
Yeah, it is such a big transition. It really is, but it's exciting. He's growing up.
Yeah, like a few people have asked me how am I going with it, and my pride and joy to see him grow and develop and make the benchmarks and all the things totally outweighs any of that kind of mama bear instinct that kind of wants to Cancerian him. Like I was like, go out into the world. I'm a little bit different in that way. But yeah, it's going to be a little bit emotional, of course, but happy tears,
Yeah. And he's such a bright, bubbly, curious little boy. He'll just take to school like a duck to water, I'm sure.
Yeah, he's so ready. Yeah. But it's just for me, it's like, 'cause this is kind of like our little bit of a Neptune episode, I guess. And I'm so used to my schedule being a little bit more fluid and flowy, whereas now I sort of have to be just, operate my business a little bit like more with a bit more structure than what I'm used to. I mean, like all things considered, it's not too bad, but a little bit more than what I'm used to. So it's definitely an adjustment.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
if any of the mums out there have any tips on how to bridge the school thing, feel free. Even I would like them, to be honest.
Yeah, I have to look. I did a step parenting thing rather than like a biological parenting thing, and so I did the high school years from we were in Canada, so basically grade 7 and 8 upwards, and I was not sorry to be done with school lunches and school schedules. There is a real structuring quality to it, like it or lump it. The format of the school year does have such a defining influence. And I mean, my husband works in education, so to an extent we still have that schedule, but we don't have to get 3 lunches together in the morning, which is it's quite the relief. So
I'll have you on speed dial by high school years, Kel, don't worry.
Yeah, I'm like, when you get to the teenage years and you need tips, I can certainly assist on that front.
Because you had the Scorpio girl to deal with too, didn't you? So
yes, I did. Yeah.
Calling you on that one.
Yes, and then a beautiful, soulful but somewhat ungrounded stepson who was this sort of beautiful Pisces Aquarius, very mixed, very creative, but not the most grounded or organized individual, which, and I would talk to him directly about that, so I don't feel bad about saying that. But Cass, you're at the whole other end of the spectrum, like the just starting place.
Yeah, well, where he's sort of been for the last few years is daycare, and it doesn't matter if we sleep in, it doesn't matter if I pick him up at early or, 5 minutes before they close the doors kind of thing. I could just be, if he didn't go at all, it'd just be that email. He's not coming to, we just call it school. He's not coming to school today. But now there's like rules and responsibilities, and mama's going to get in trouble if I don't get to you to school on time. So.
And I think it's going to be an interesting start to the school year with the astrology for the starting the week ahead.
It's not great for this is how it's
rules and restrictions and everything. So it'll be Sunday night in the US, but Monday morning here in Australia. Still a public holiday, but we've got Venus square Mars. So we talked about this in a previous episode, but it's, the Venus in Pisces is cooling down that Mars in Sag, and he's warming her up a little bit too. But there is a kind of a tension with this square of, will I be all heart and compassion and empathy, or the Mars in Sag, it's like, no, I want to go off. I want to be free. I want to be adventurous and exploring. So it'll be that push-pull between the two there. Almost like be the clingy mother at the school gate while the kid's like, no, I just want to get in there and be inspired and learn. So, there's that kind of analogy with it. But all of this is wrapped up on it'll be Monday in the States, but Tuesday here in Australia with Venus conjunct Neptune and Mars square Neptune. So I'm throwing it over to you gals. I think who's going off first? Are you doing Venus, Cass?
Yeah, I think I was going to touch on the Venus conjoined Neptune. So that happens on the 27th in Canada, US, and the 28th for us Aussies. So 16 degrees of Pisces. So if you've got any planets or angles around 16 of Pisces or the mutable signs, this is going to be like bring forward your Valentine's Day if that's possible. So definitely a lot more of a romantic aspect, and it can definitely, Venus and Neptune is, I don't know, maybe I'll be dropping my son off at school and then hitting the pub. I mean, drowning my tears. No, I'm really only joking. I'll probably be hitting the gym, but yes. It's definitely like, it's the start of the school year. It's a brand new week, but it's like, I don't really want to be partaking in this. So it might be a gentle start to the week. Perhaps if you can arrange a sleep in or, a catch up with somebody or even an RDO or a day off or something like that, to just kind of ease yourself into the energy. Neptune and Venus together in Pisces, if you can infuse some music into your day or some water, whether that's the beach or consciously making more effort to drink some more. I was talking to a friend just the other day and he was thinking about putting a water feature in his front yard, and he goes, oh, I'll look at that at the end of the month. And I was like, what? How do you know, kind of thing. So this is a day for just kind of going with the flow rather than pushing or grinding or over scheduling yourself. So if you can just maybe like, those pools where they have like a wade in, and then it gets deeper and deeper and deeper. So today is a little bit of a wade in until we get into the thick of, I guess in Australia, getting back to, we have quite an extended holiday here in January. So getting back into the rhythms of things. So how about you girls? What do you think about this one?
I'm definitely on you with like the break, the taking it slow. I'm just thinking, I actually have a day off scheduled in Palm Springs / San Diego with a girlfriend. So that is a fortuitous thing. And as I mentioned before, it's the end of a month of teaching and touring. So I'm definitely going to feel that Neptune vibe. But yeah, Venus, Neptune, there's a creative component, there's a soulful component, it's getting into the feelings, like feeling all of those emotions.
Yeah.
I don't know that, like, I think I would take things that appear and seem perfect with a grain of salt, because we're definitely in rose-colored glasses territory with Venus on Neptune in Pisces, but going with the flow, taking a slower pace, being more fluid, more flexible. Things won't get done quickly today, and in the end, that will actually be okay. But if you start this week with that mindset of trying to attack everything, I think you'll sort of quickly come undone, or you'll realize that everyone else is in a different place, so you might as well slow down to their level, if that makes sense.
Totally.
Yeah. Any thoughts to add, Leash?
Two thoughts for this. Firstly, I am praying that this is the moisture that Australia needs. I am praying
yes, and rain.
Venus in Pisces, conjunct Neptune, it's the rain we need. And it is forecast long range for it, but we need a massive deluge here. Hopefully the fires will be out by then. We are recording this a few weeks early, but yeah, I really am hoping it's that. I also think that, you know what, this is a day for rest. And as a mum, for me, having, depositing both my children in childcare and school this day, I'll be taking a day off for me that doesn't involve anyone else, because often by the end of the school holidays, which is 6 weeks at this stage. So for those in the US, it's like, that day where you're just ready after 6 weeks to get them back in. It's a chance to just do something for you. So if it's not raining, I'm planning to have surfboard under the arm and heading down to the beach and just spending a good day in the water. But yeah, all those other watery things that Cass was talking about with the music, I totally agree with there too. But yeah, it's just a day. It was funny. I was listening to something the other day about the importance of rest, and not so much sleep, but taking a break from things so that the creativity can flow through. So it's not this totally on running hamster wheel. It's like, okay, take some space, meet the next bit of the new year with a bit of creativity, with a bit of openness, with a bit of imagination, with a bit of magic. So for me, I always find those times that I do have a chance to go out for a surf or just sit on the beach with a book, things just drop in, new ideas come to me. So it is creating that creative space for me. So yeah, I guess that's the invitation for that day too. And Kel, you were going to talk a bit more about the other part of this day, Neptune too.
When I was recording this week for my monthly membership, I sort of labeled this period, January 26th, 27th, 28th, as like the Neptune in, the flood or the deluge, because every day we have something else going on with Neptune. Venus is in Pisces square Mars. That's sort of the start of it. And they're so close to Neptune that we just see over the 72-hour period. The other thing that's happening, so it's really all, if you're thinking about week ahead, it's Monday, Tuesday. They're the only astrological aspects happening this week. There is literally no aspects happening after Tuesday or after Wednesday in Australia. The moon is also in Pisces on Monday, Tuesday, and I think a little bit of Wednesday, just depending on your exact time zone. So if we're talking about a deluge, we're really getting a heightened level of emotional energy and water activation. The Mars square Neptune component, that's 16 Sag to 16 Pisces, that'll be Tuesday, January 28th, I think, for just about everybody.
Yeah.
Certainly Canada, the States, and the US will all have it on the same day. Mars square Neptune is about confusion. It's about not being able to see the road ahead, not having a sense of clarity or certainty, and being forced either by personal choice and awareness or through circumstance to take a break or to slow down. The road ahead is not clear, or it might be temporarily blocked by fog or something else. So there is a lack of clarity that I see with Mars square Neptune. Neptune, particularly, Mars is where we get our energy from. He's the fuel in the fire, or like the coal in the tank in the engine. And Neptune can have this lethargic, comatose quality. And so when Mars has to deal with Neptune, it's like putting a big bucket of water on the hot fire of enthusiasm and motivation. So I know it's not necessarily like super positive to say that we have to slow down, but taking a break, we're going to be doing that with Venus Neptune. I think with Venus Neptune on the Monday, which is Tuesday in Australia, there's a lot in that around caring for our loved ones in a kind of no boundary, not limited kind of way. Venus Neptune is like, it's that unconditional type of love, whether it's parent-child or even in a family or a romantic situation. It's that idea of just going that extra mile or offering that support because you can or because it's the right thing to do. Mars square Neptune is some frustration about difference in pacing and difference in intention. So usually what I suggest with Mars Neptune in these sort of harder or more tense aspects, it will be about a 36-hour window, I think, starting kind of maybe Monday night to Wednesday morning, where going forward and going quickly is not going to be ideal. So taking that break to reassess, like you mentioned, Leash, hanging out at the beach, meditating, doing reflective practices, I wouldn't make any big decisions. I've noticed Moon Neptune days, which is also Tuesday the 28th. I always tell my subscribers about Moon Neptune days as being days to chill out, just flake out, read a book, escape with a movie, watch Netflix. It's non-productive time. And one of the best things that I think Neptune in Pisces reminds us when he's active is that we are a human being, not a human doing. And so it's that idea of bringing you back into that place of beingness. And Leash, I think this is when you were talking, or it might have been when Cass was talking, the two words of spaciousness and unhurried came up for me. So it's like the anti-hustle aspect, if you like. So very mellow start to this week. The second half of the week, all the planets have cleared the Neptune fog zone and you can get back on track. But I think we'll all need a couple of days. Yeah, whether it's a late start on Monday or Tuesday or an early night or a movie night in the middle of the week, which you don't normally do. There's a few different ways to really tune in and slow down.
Yeah, totally. And I feel like another analogy I have for this is, because Neptune can numb. And when you've sat on your leg in the wrong position for a while and you get pins and needles and then you go to walk and it's like this weird sensation of this dead leg that can't do what you need. And you just have to have the patience to wait. And there's this weird prickly feeling and it's uncomfortable, but you just have to sit and wait for sensation to come back in before you try to walk. Because if not, you'll fall over or end up kind of going in a weird road over in another direction. So there is really that sensation of, of that ability to really sit with things and stay in the moment and not push and like say no to things that are pushing back, especially for many, if this is your first week back at work or your full week back at work, to take the time to deal with the inbox, to deal with things in a clear way, and to actually, it's like when you're driving on a foggy road, the recommendation is always to go slowly, put your parkers on, your warning lights on, and to stay within the white lines. So find some kind of structure on this day if you do have to work that will keep you on track, whether that's a to-do list, or something specific that you can focus on. It might not be so easy, but just something to provide those white lines that can keep you within. And it might also be having a bit of an early mark if possible, to go off and head to the beach or do whatever you need to do to bring in this watery feeling. But yeah, totally agree with you on that confusion, Cal. It's going to be a big day. What about you, Cass?
Yeah, the whole Mars Neptune thing to me speaks. Mars just sort of wants to go. And when Neptune is there, it's like, but where? And it can be this analogy of circling on a roundabout, but not knowing which exit to take. So it might feel a little bit like you're spinning your wheels, or if you feel like you're wasting energy in trying to decide or trying to push or trying to, as you said, hustle, Kel.
Yeah.
This aspect is more about, okay, rather than the hustle, let's align and, get my actions, Mars, in line with my desires or my passions or what inspires me. And it can be that, stepping off the grid to help you get back on it in a more of a productive or efficient way. So that's what I sort of think around this Neptune type of energy. And, if you do feel a little bit tired, more depleted, or, thinking, oh, geez, where did my mojo go? Well, you'll know where it went. So it's just that idea of, I can never remember which fish it is, whether it's the tuna that swims with the tide or it's the salmon
that goes upstream.
Yeah, whatever what it is. So you get where I'm going with that. It's Neptune. I'm already a bit confused. But, yeah, it's sort of like, well, if you feel like, and that's what they say in Australia, right? With a rip, if you get caught in a rip, I think in America they call them rip tides, but we just shorten everything here. If you're caught in a rip, don't swim against it. Don't waste your energy. Just let that current take you, conserve your energy, and, hope for the best.
Wait till it spits you out at the other end. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So,
because we were talking about our Neptune squares earlier in the pre-show chat, and Yeah, that kind of brings a bit of insight to this as well. Did you want to talk a bit about yours at all, Cass?
Oh, mine. Oh, I don't like where my Neptune is natally. So it was funny. I was for quite a while. So, just to keep you in the loop, mine is exactly conjoined my descendant. And so when I was approaching the square, I was sort of, walls went right up. I'm not having any part of this show. But what it really did, one way it actually did work quite positively was, opening up, because, of course, natally on the 7th, transiting the 10th, it really did help me connect more cyclically, not cyclically, psychically, help me feel, more in tune to things that got pushed down or as a kid, I wasn't allowed to explore that side of myself. So I think it kind of really opened up that part of things for me and helped me to perhaps connect intuitively a lot more as well, which is very much what Neptune is all about. So really helped me to do that from a professional standpoint, from a client standpoint, and even just my one-on-one relationships. So it was an interesting transit. It didn't kind of involve all the drama or the losers that sometimes you might sort of expect. So, I did, there were a few wounded souls that kind of came into my sphere, but, that's the norm for me. And how about you, Leash? How was your Neptune square when you had a big dose of it via transit? Because this happens to all of us in the mid-40s, early 40s, I should say. So if you've not yet got there, it is usually sort of around the 40 to 42 age bracket. You will have depending, but generally a good 18 months of that.
Yeah, we talk about it as one of the midlife transits.
Exactly, yeah.
And it can be the first one we come across depending on what the Pluto cycles are happening. Yeah, but I do remember for me actually calling you because I could see it coming up, and this was when we were making the big decision to follow our dream and move up here to the Sunshine Coast. And I was thinking, have I just got the rose-coloured glasses on? Is this going to be the wrong decision? Will we get up there and not be able to find work? Rah-da-da.
And no doubt I would have been cheering you on, do the thing, don't worry about it.
You totally did. And because this plugs into some other important charts in planets in my chart too, what this, including Jupiter, my planet of joy, what this actually turned out to be was my little boy, who is a surprise pregnancy, came out of nowhere. We'd been trying we had not been trying, but not trying, if you know what I mean, and for years. And suddenly, bang, we got up here, we were relaxed, stress-free, and along came this little man. And he is a literal manifestation of that for me because he's a Pisces rising with Neptune conjunct the ascendant. So, I've got this little man who's a permanent reminder of my Neptune square Neptune. And, there was a bit of a dream, a bit of a fantasy. I remember when we fell pregnant, we're like, look, it's not the ideal situation, but let's do it anyway because this is an opportunity, this is a chance. And now looking back, we kind of go, was this the right decision to make? There's 5 years between my kids, so it was quite bringing us back to a whole different, back to babyhood, which we hadn't been in for years. But, I wouldn't change it for the world. He's just beautiful and such a dreamy little soul. So, but it's kind of those things that even if you think you try to plan ahead, I thought it was going to be about moving up here. It wasn't. It was in a way because we wouldn't have felt pregnant, I don't think, if we hadn't have moved up here. But, What about you, Kel? You've had some... Have you had any Neptune?
I haven't had the Neptune square Neptune yet. No. I've got that to look forward to later this year and next year. I've definitely had my fair share of Neptune transits though. And oh my God, Neptune, over the course of my lifetime, Neptune has been over, oh my God. So you think about the 5 personal or quick moving planets, it's been over 4 of mine already by conjunction, and it's going to do the next one. The last of the 5, I think, is 2021. So I've definitely had, it is, the thing with Neptune is I find clients struggle with Neptune transits more than any other transit. Like I know Pluto can be intense and somewhat confronting, and Uranus transits can be a little bit shocking or unexpected. But there are things to do within the context of those transits. And when you're in Neptune transits, I remember when Neptune went over my ascendant years ago, it was around the time I got married. So there's a lot that I was sort of just dealing with around the change in identity of being an individual versus being sort of more permanently part of this relationship. And separate to that, though, I remember being less productive and more tired and more lethargic just in general, like for about a year, about 18 months. It wasn't that I stopped working or anything like that, but in hindsight, because Neptune transits are sometimes hard to get perspective on when you're in them. And afterwards you're like, oh, I was a bit foggy through that time, or it was just everything took that much more effort or processing. So, you know, I know we're talking about Neptune, I guess, now in a slightly different context to what it's doing this week, but this really is like the Neptune in Pisces week. And if you want to learn about Neptune in Pisces, Monday, Tuesday, it's going to teach you many things about that. So it's, and again, I always find Neptune is one of those planetary cycles that's a little harder to articulate. And that's, again, the nature of Neptune. It is intangible, and trying to pin down the nature of Neptune with things like words isn't always ideal, because Neptune is so sensory and so visceral and so intuitive or emotive. Like you can feel it or you can sense it, but that's not the realm that modern life kind of functions in. And some of us, you know, I mean, we spend more time maybe in Neptune's land than people who have regular office jobs, for instance. But when you're in a Neptune transit, or when there's a couple of days like the start of this week, which is all about Neptune, you get to connect with that internal part of yourself, and you'll be more or less comfortable with that based on your internal personality. I love Neptune days like this because I'm like, nobody's going to need anything in a hurry, and I can read my book or take my time or soak in the bath. And you can, because I think with Neptune, it's about getting off the clock. It's about not doing Saturn. It's about not being on time. It's about not making a deadline. It's about feeling and flow rather than structure and specificity.
Yeah. And I love what you were saying, Kel, about, you know, modern life. I think that's why we do struggle with Neptune, is because it is that whole, you've got to get things done, you've got to tick the boxes, and it is hard, you know, having Neptune transits at the beginning of a week. It's like, oh, just take an extra few days on a long weekend. And, you know, but it's also the spiritual, I find, for me. I mean, part of what that Neptune square was for me as well, it took me totally out of one career and into astrology. And finally that whole dream, you know, this pregnancy cut off what I was doing and allowed me to step into this. And even when my progressed sun was conjunct Neptune, I suddenly had a spiritual awakening of a kind. It's just this sense of really tapping into that side of the world, which is really opening up my spiritual practices, moving more into that. I'd been working on it for a while, but this was a really big year for me in terms of that. So, and you can't just do that if you're in the 9-to-5 humdrum, you know, on the hamster's wheel. So it is really that key piece of rest and space and the timelessness, if we can allow it with these Neptune transits.
Totally. And I know for many of our friends and listeners in Canada and the US, where it's sort of the middle of the dead of winter this week, you know, late January, early February, it's like the Groundhog Day, where we're literally in the middle of the 3-month winter period. Many people, certainly in Ontario, where I lived for a long time, this is like escape to the beach time, where people are looking for those deals to get some time in the sun down in the Caribbean or the Bahamas. And so if you are, I know in Australia, we've talked about, you know, the back to school piece as part of this, but I think for people who might be like midwinter, just pausing to honor the fact that you've made it halfway through the winter, and that from here on in, you know, that March equinox is now going to get just a little closer every day and every week, which is great. The other thing that I always find you can see, sometimes it's the new moon in Aquarius, but the start of this week will play into that, is the days get a little bit longer in the Northern Hemisphere. It's obvious that the day length is increasing, and that may, you know, there may be a chance to try and find a little bit of hope, even if it doesn't necessarily make you super productive with this.
Yeah, the whole Neptune stuff, it reminds me of something that someone I once knew told me. And I remember at the time I was like, what are you talking about? But he said to me, sometimes the most productive thing you can do is absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
And to me, that just seemed like another language, but I was young and now I get it.
Now you get it. That's so true, Cass, because I find that where the busier I am, the more of that unstructured, empty time I benefit from, because it's great for inspiration. And there's a quote that is sort of attributed to Buddha, and I don't know whether Buddha really said it or not, but it's something like, or maybe the Dalai Lama, but some sort of spiritual figure. Everybody should meditate for 20 minutes a day, unless you're really busy, and then you should take an hour every day.
Yeah.
So, I think as an antidote to our very fast-paced modern lives, taking a couple of days to not be productive and not be fast-paced is just a tiny drop in the ocean of a rebalancing.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
So I'm just thinking from an experiential perspective, like, as much as it's ideal to take a break, but some people are going to be getting the kids to school or just doing the regular back to work routine. There may be a little bit of confusion or crossed wires or misunderstandings Monday, Tuesday, where, things are just not quite what they seem, or that lack of clarity can just interfere with the normal functioning of things.
Yeah.
So double checking if there is stuff you have to do or you're expecting something by a certain time would be really good.
Yeah.
But I think I've been very Neptune in that I just keep babbling on about this. So
I think we all did. This has been a bit of a babbling episode. So,
and I mean, even working with clients who have major Neptune influences going on for them, sometimes I can't even get the words out for them.
Yeah.
And that's the impact. That's the impact of it. It's like, how do I describe this thing to you that is kind of beyond description? But they nod and they're like, I get that. There is this fear. It's a knowing. It's not a, she said, Kel, a doing. It's a feeling. It's an experience. It's I don't know. Again, it's just so hard to kind of describe it. And really, there's not a word that encapsulates the essence of what Neptune is, because it is just so ethereal in that way.
And words so often come short when they're trying to describe emotions or feelings or sensations.
Yeah. It's like, how you can put on a song and it will take you back. Or it sets a mood and,
or a smell.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, if there's a certain mood, like I'm looking for, it'll be like Frank Sinatra or Harry Connick Jr. If there's another mood, it'll be Slipknot. So, it's kind of like that. And that's what Neptune does. It sets a mood. It sets a tone or a pace. And I can't really tell you what those moods are, but when you're in it, you get it and you know it. So, yeah. And that's another survival tip for when it feels so vague and misty out there, like just put on a song that takes you to a place where you need to be in that time and in that place.
Yeah.
And space.
Absolutely.
So,
Love it. So that's the Neptune mood for the week.
Yeah. So what are you girls up to this week? Kel, sounds like you're having a bit of a break.
Well, I'm having a break on those first 2 days, but then I'm actually going to Canada in the middle of the week to take my citizenship test. So hopefully I haven't jinxed myself by telling everyone about it, but I've been applying for that. Well, I applied for that about 12 months ago, and this test you can only take in Ottawa. There is no other option. So because I'll be teaching this Saturday, February 1st in New York. So I'm just going to pop into Canada for a few days before. Monday, Tuesday are like down days. And then the rest of the week is kind of business as usual for me teaching. It'll be the last stop on my teaching tour. So I get a couple of days off and then one more event. And I'm really excited to be back in New York. I taught there for the first time for the NCGR community in May of 2019 or 2018. Now I'm getting really confused to what was last year, right? With the changeover.
Last year or the year
I think it was 2019. Yeah, I think it was 2019. And it's such a beautiful community there in New York. So, I'm excited to be back. What do you have going this week, Cass?
Well, I am intentionally scheduling-wise taking a bit of a slower pace because I will be edging into the new normal. So, kind of trying to balance structure with fluidity and all the things. So it's going to be a little bit of a, stay tuned. I don't know what's going to be happening this week. Just making space for whatever my little man needs this week, I think.
Yeah, and for all the feels.
And what you need too. You need too. Yeah. And
Alicia?
I am going to be – so this week I'm just doing consults, but next week I'm going to be kicking off a new astrology course for those that took the Foundations of Astrology with me. This will be the next step with that, or anyone else that wants to join along. So, yeah, keep an eye out on my website for exactly when and how that will be happening.
Excellent.
That's about it.
It's all happening and all not happening all at the same time.
Yes.
It's all happening after a couple of break days.
Yes, exactly. So enjoy those lovely restful days, everyone, and we'll see you next week.
See you later.
Take care.
Bye.